So I'm just going to read this article from the BBC. This is about the Israel-Gaza war. Unknown fate of 6-year-old Hind Rajab trapped under fire by Lucy Williamson. BBC News, Jerusalem. So this is Hind Rajab. Hind Rajab. Now I've heard some details about this shooting. It's a 6-year-old girl, and she's in a car, and it gets shot the fuck up. And she calls, their version of 911, and they got her on the phone, and she's saying she's just so scared. Come save me. Come save me. 6-year-old girl. Now, you'd like to think that people would give a damn about children. You'd think people that call themselves pro-life would give a fuck about life, but pro-lifers are actually just about control. They don't give a shit. They're about control and oppression. And they don't give a shit about animals. They don't give a shit about human life. They don't care about healthcare as life. Without life, how do we have the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness? And so she's stuck in this vehicle. I'm not for sure which one it is, if it's this car, if it's the ambulance. But she's just saying she's so scared, and the people on the phone don't know what to do. So I'm just going to read this article and post it because it's a heartbreaking story that needs to be told. So Hind Rajab. It makes me think of Benson Weston. Benson Weston might have been shot in New Hampshire by a police officer, and all I did was ask a couple of questions, and even though most people apparently aren't paying attention to most things, that was something that people paid attention to. If you criticize the police, they did their job and they did exactly what they're supposed to do, then why did 8-year-old Benson get shot? Can you tell me for a fact that it wasn't the police that killed Benson, it was actually Trent? You can't tell me that for a fact. The voice on the other end of the line was small and faint, a 6-year-old's voice, crackling on a mobile phone from Gaza. The tank is next to me. It's moving. Sitting in the emergency call center of the Palestinian Red Crescent, Rana tried to keep her own voice calm. Is it very close? Very, very, the small voice replied. Will you come and get me? I'm so scared. This reminds me of Jurassic Park, when the two kids were stuck in the car. There was nothing Rana could do except keep the conversation going. 6-year-old Hind Rajab was trapped under fire in Gaza City and begging for help, hiding inside her uncle's car, surrounded by the bodies of her relatives. Rana's voice was her only fragile link in a familiar world. So the car got shot up, and apparently all of her relatives are dead, but she thinks they're just sleeping. Hind had set off from her home in Gaza City earlier that day with her uncle, aunt, and 5 cousins. It was Monday, January 29th, 2024. That morning, the Israeli army had told people to evacuate areas in the west of the city and move south along the coast road. This is Netanyahu. This is the white supremacist colonialist project. Hind's mother, Wissam, remembers there was intense shelling in the area. We were terrified and we wanted to escape, she said. We were fleeing from place to place to avoid the air strikes. The family decided to head for the Ali Hospital to the east of the city, hoping it would be a safer place to shelter. Wissam and her older child began making her own way there on foot. Hind was given a place in her uncle's car, a black Kia Picanto. The way that the car was totally demolished and shot up, it makes me think of just some random Mexican woman or Mexican-American woman who was driving a car. Christopher Dorner. Christopher Dorner had did his little rebellion, his little Django rebellion, and it didn't end off well for him. He's going to get shot up in some random-ass cabin in the middle of the woods. But because there was just such a massive police manhunt, they came across this Mexican-American in the truck, and they shot the fuck up out of the truck like 200 bullets. 200 bullets. When you look at the truck, it's like, how did they survive? How did they survive that? Wissam and her older child began making their own way there on foot. Hind was given a place in her uncle's car, a black Kia Picanto. It was a very cold and rainy It was very cold and rainy, Wissam explained. I told Hind to go in the car because I didn't want her to suffer the rain. As soon as the car left, she said, they heard loud shooting come from the same direction. As Hind, Rajab's uncle, drove towards the city's famous Al-Azhar University, the car is thought to have unexpectedly come face to face with Israeli tanks. They pulled into the nearby Fares patrol station for safety and appeared to come under fire. Inside the vehicle, the family called relatives for help. One of them contacted the emergency headquarters of the Palestinian Red Crescent. 50 miles away in the occupied West Bank, it was now 14:20. Operators at the Red Crescent call center in Ramallah called the mobile phone number for Hind's uncle, but his 15-year-old daughter, Layyan, answered instead. In the recorded phone call, Layyan tells the Red Crescent staff that her parents and siblings have all been killed and that there is a tank next to the car. They are firing at us, she says, before the conversation ends with the sound of gunfire and screaming. When the Red Crescent team ring back, it is Hind who answers, her voice almost inaudible, drowned in fear. It soon becomes clear that she is the only survivor in the car and that she is still in the line of fire. Hide under the seats, the team tell her. Don't let anyone see you. Operator Rana Faki stayed on the line with him for hours as the Red Crescent appealed to the Israeli army to allow their ambulance to access the location. She was shaken, sad, appealing for help. This is of Hind Rajab. Hind Rajab was shaken and sad and appealing for help. She told us that her relatives were dead, but then later she described them as sleeping. She didn't even know that they were shot and killed and dead, so we told her just let them sleep. We don't want to bother them. And Hind Rajab kept asking over and over again for someone to come and get her. Somebody save me. At one point she told me it was getting dark. Rana told the BBC she was scared. She asked me how far away my house was. I felt paralyzed and helpless. 3 hours after the call began, an ambulance was finally dispatched to rescue Hind Rajab. In the meantime, the Red Crescent team had reached Hind's mother, Wissam, and patched her phone line into the call. She cried more when she heard her mother's voice. Rana, remember, she pleaded with me not to hang up. Don't hang up. Don't hang up, Wissam told the BBC. I asked her where she was injured. Then I distracted her by reading the Quran with her. And we prayed together. And she was repeating every word I said after me. It was after dark when the ambulance crew, Yusuf and Ahmed, notified operators that they were needed. It was after dark when the ambulance crew, Yusuf and Ahmed, notified operators that they were nearing the location and were about to be checked for entry by Israeli forces. It was the last operators heard from their colleagues or from Hind Rajab. The line to both paramedics and to the 6-year-old girl they came to rescue disconnected for good. Hind Rajab's grandfather, Baha Hamada, told the BBC that the girl's connection with her mother lasted a few moments longer. And the last thing that Wissam heard was the sound of the car door being opened. And Hind telling her that she could see the ambulance in the distance. Every second my heart burns, Wissam told the BBC. Every time I hear the sound of an ambulance, I think maybe it's her. Every sound, every gunshot, every fallen missile, every bomb, I wonder if it's heading for my daughter. If it's been hit, neither Red Crescent teams in Gaza nor Hind's family have been able to reach the location, which still lies inside an active combat zone controlled by the Israeli army. It's hard at night, the call operator Rania said, when you wake up and hear her voice in your ear saying, come and get me. Somebody save me. We asked the Israeli army for details in its operations in the area that day and about the disappearance of Hind and the ambulance sent to retrieve her. We asked again 24 hours later and they said they were still checking. Where is the International Court of Justice? Why are presidents sitting in their chairs? Hind's mother, Wissam, asked. A week on from her daughter's disappearance, Wissam sits and waits at the Ali hospital. Day after day, filling the absence with the resolute hope that Hind Rajab will be brought back to life. I've brought her things and I'm waiting for her here. She said, I'm waiting for my daughter at any moment, any second. I'm begging from a broken mother's heart not to forget this story. R.I.P. Hind Rajab. R.I.P.